Hi Math 10s. This second video is for lesson 2.1, the tangent ratio. We saw in the last one that tangent ratio is defined as dividing the opposite side, the length of it, divided by the adjacent side. So it's just a ratio. It tells you how big one of these sides is relative to the other. So an example of this is you're given a triangle, you're given some dimensions, and it says determine the value of tan m and tan n. So let's just look at angle m. Angle m you can see is down in the bottom left. So to do the tangent of that angle, we need to do the opposite over the adjacent from that particular angle, which means we need to do 5 divided by 12. So that's the answer here, 5 over 12. You could give it as a decimal, but it's 0.4166666, so I'd probably just leave it as tan m equals 5 over 12. For n, notice the sides end up being rearranged as far as talking about angle n. The opposite now becomes 12 and the adjacent becomes 5. And so for angle n, the answer is the reciprocal. It's actually 12 over 5. And again, the decimal would be fine. You could say 2.4. But notice the 13 was not relevant here. We didn't need to use it. The hypotenuse is not used when you're finding the value of the tangent ratio. Now, in the next example, we'll actually be asked to find the angles m and n. Notice these numbers here are not the angles. They are the value of the trig ratio. The angles themselves we can find, though, by, hope you don't get motion sickness from that, angles m and n, if we're asked to find it, we still start the same way. We say, okay, well, tangent of angle m is 5 over 12. And so this is where you'll use your calculator and you say, oh, well, the inverse tan of 5 over 12 is going to give me angle m. So use your second function button, second function tan of 5 over 12, and you should get an answer of 22 lots of decimals, but about 22.6 degrees. If you're getting something entirely different, it means that you're likely in radian mode instead of degree mode. So just push the mode button near the top left of your calculator and make sure you're in degrees. And inverse tan of 5 over 12 should give you 22.6 degrees, which seems reasonable in that picture. If I try the same thing for angle n, tan of angle n, as we saw a moment ago, is 12 over 5. So if I do inverse tan of 12 over 5, I get 67.4 degrees. Notice, by the way, that if you had found angle m, you could have found angle n just by saying, oh, these got to add up to 180. Like if you add these answers up, the 90 that we already had, the 22.6 and the 67.4 should add up to, and do add up to, 180 degrees in total. So one of the main uses of the trig ratios, in this case the tangent ratio, is to find an angle when you're given sides. And in particular, if we use the opposite and adjacent sides of that triangle, we can use the tan ratio, the inverse tan, to find the angle.